This is Scott Patterson, Agent Peter Strom from the Saw franchise, and you're listening to Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. I know, yes, there will be blood.
Congratulations, you are still alive.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast. Just want to thank all of our fans and listeners. Really appreciate the support. You guys are awesome. Before we get into tonight's film review, just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on the website. All of our episodes and interviews, if you want to check those out. We've done some incredible interviews in the past. Go check them out there in a specific tab by themselves so you don't have to scroll through hundreds of episodes on Apple or Spotify, etc. We also have our store if you want to grab a shirt, a mouse pad, a hat, all that good stuff. We'd love to see your pictures, rep your favorite podcast. And Shan's Etsy page is also attached if you want to grab a tumbler. All of our social media links are on there as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Like us, subscribe us, follow us, all that good stuff. And the last thing I want to shout out on our website is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. If you want to support us, help us pay the bills, as we say. Or if there's a movie you want us to review, that option is available as well. Just check out our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Also, if you haven't noticed, we've recently joined the Believe Network. So there's some ads on our program now. But if you want ad-free content, go check us out on Blood Donors. The ad-free episodes will be available there. We appreciate your support. We hope you enjoy the episode. All right, guys, jumping to the film review. We continue on in spooky season, October, our round of picks, and it's my turn. I chose Saw 5. The past few Octobers I've been choosing the Saw movie because I just have so much nostalgia of being in high school, going to see the Saw movies when they released, in October. And Saw 5, I distinctly remember seeing in the theater, seeing that opening scene, loving it. I've listened to all of Dead Meat's reviews of the Saw, they called it Hot Saw Summer when they reviewed all of them. And Saw 5 didn't get the most love, and I don't understand why. I really enjoy Saw 5. I do have some qualms with it, but I have a lot of fun with it. I think there's a lot of good kills, a lot of good traps. And, I met Costas Mandylor last year. The scene with him and John is my second favorite of the franchise. I love those interactions with John, being Jigsaw and not being sick and frail. So I really enjoy this movie, but I do have qualms with it. Brian, what'd you think?
Man, first of all, I think that scene with John and Costas went on for 35 minutes, I think, just straight. But I'll preface this and just say again, I'm not as diehard of a Saw franchise fan as the other three on this pod. But I do like the franchise a lot. I've said that to the point where, and I've said this before, I don't think that there's a bad movie in the franchise per se. It's in the entire thing. I stand by that. Maybe when we get to them, I'll change my mind. But right now, I may not agree with some of the storylines and routes they went throughout, but they aren't bad in my opinion. And we've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and Spiral. So my OCD is super happy that we're finally getting to 5. But upon reviewing my rankings, Part 3 and Spiral got the lowest from me and were both 7s. So I don't know if I rated any of the rest of them below a 9. So I honestly don't expect a low score from me on this one either. I loved it.
Yeah, I love it too. I mean, like I said, I think last week, I don't know if I said it on there or not, but if you go to our website and click on my profile and read about me, I'm pretty sure I had this listed as my favorite franchise. I may not, but I think so. So they're all good, but except for it's like the Family Guy meme where they put their hands in. Not you, Seamus, not you, Jigsaw, but they're all good. This one's got some really good. I like the games. The traps a lot. It does get a little bit messy. Like the editing, the scene editing is really cool, how it seamlessly transitions from past to present, but it can muddy the waters. It can kind of throw you for a loop if you look away from the screen for a minute, look back up, you're like, whoa, is this currently happening? Is this the past? And I know Nico loves nonlinear storytelling, so that was his favorite part of this movie. But I like it a lot. It's a really, really darn fine movie.
Darn fine.
All right. Yeah. So in the past, I have kind of talked about Saw 5 in a way where like I thought the franchise starts to take a dip, and it kind of does. But I went into it with an open mind because I really hadn't seen Saw 5 in a while. I typically would only watch this one when I'm watching them all in a binge in order, because it does connect some of the other stuff in the later films. And so I think in that way, it's an effective movie. There are parts of this movie that do drag in comparison to some of the other Saw films, but for whatever reason, I leaned into this storyline more this time. I actually liked this cat and mouse chase between Strahm and Hoffman more than I normally do and normally would have. And so for that reason, I actually came out with a more positive experience than I have in the past. I've never thought it was terrible, but it just was kind of the boring movie of the franchise for me. And so I felt like this time I was a little more invested. And while I do think this is kind of the most detective-y, the most episode of Law and Order movie that we get in the Saw franchise, as I've gotten older, I like those shows now, to the surprise of no one of my age. And so I do think my score will reflect that. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm glad you picked it, brother. And it was great to just kind of tap back into the Saw universe in its original form. I hadn't done that in quite a while, so I am excited that you picked it, man.
Well, speaking of darn fine, you get to do the scene by scene, which is darn fine by me. Whenever you want to start, go ahead, brother.
All right. Lord, bear me strength. We open at the warehouse where Saw 4 left off. Inside, Seth Baxter is chained to a table and a tape starts playing on the TV. It's that rascal Billy. And he tells Seth that since he only served 5 years of what should have been a life sentence, he doesn't fully understand the magnitude of taking a life. There's a blade on a pendulum above him, and if he wants to live, he'll have to insert his hands into devices at his left and right that will crush them to dust. The pendulum starts swinging and lowering, so Seth reluctantly places his hands in the devices. His hands are smashed, but the pendulum doesn't stop. There was no winning this one. He dies anyway as his stomach is sliced open. The last thing he sees is a hooded figure looking on through a window. Title card. We cut to Strahm being locked in the room from the last movie, and he's searching for a way out, but instead he finds a tape. Jigsaw tells him the room can either be his sanctuary or his grave. Strahm navigates his way through the building and gets pigmasked for his efforts. He wakes up with his head in a box that has 2 tubes running attached to water jugs. The water starts filling the box, but Strahm is quick on his feet. He takes his ink pen and stabs himself in the throat, which allows him to breathe. The cops arrive on scene, and Hoffman tells them that Riggs didn't make it. No one made it, except Strahm did, and Hoffman didn't expect that. We cut to a woman reading a magazine with John Kramer on the cover, and she recognizes Jill in the attorney office's lobby. Jill meets with the attorney, who tells her John left something for her. It's a VHS tape. John tells her on the tape that he couldn't forgive himself for what happened at the clinic, and he's leaving her a box with important contents in it. The attorney gives her the box, and she has the key for it on her necklace. She takes a look inside and closes it, and that's the opening.
All right, so right off the bat, David Hackle, it's his directorial debut here. He was involved in 2 through 5, I believe, production-wise, but finally gets to sit in the director's chair for this one. You know what? He would go on to be the production designer for Repo, the genetic opera. And I believe that's the lowest rated movie we've ever done. I could be wrong there. I know Rubber and that one are like neck and neck. But
I think my negative 6.66 on Human Centipede brought that one down.
I thought that too, but then I went and looked at it, and this one's still lower than that, even with the negative 6.66.
You sick freaks.
So I think Rubber is even lower than that too. So they're neck and neck. I don't know. But speaking of necks, we get to the first trap, and I've said this before. Once the franchise got into The Apprentices with Amanda and Hoffman, and the traps kind of got to where they were impossible to escape, it did lose me some. Whenever they just became just about torture, not about redemption. But I do like how the reason for this one is explained later. Fantastic writing there, I thought. And after that, I'm definitely a fan of the movie reminding me where we are with Strahm after 4, because I did not recall. Shout out friend of the show, Scott Patterson, who behind the scenes was apparently a little bit apprehensive about sticking his head in a sealed box that would fill with water. They said it was tested beforehand, didn't go well, but he ended up doing it regardless with no stuntman. You know what? He probably stabbed himself in the throat for real and gave himself a trach in real life too, because he's a fucking legend. But, and here where Hoffman leaves the Gideon plant with Corbett, I think it's Corbett, is that how you say her name? The little kid. We finally see how she made it out there after the ending in 3 and says nobody made it. That was actually filmed for and edited out of Saw 4. So it was reused footage. So if Hoffman has a little bit of weight fluctuation, that's why. I love the transition from Hoffman's face to Kramer's face on the magazine with Jill in the lawyer's office. I appreciate them also not telling us what's in the box till next movie, because again, it's not sarcasm. I do love the continuity in this franchise.
Yeah, starting off like always with a Saw review. I love the winding gears and the barbed wire with Lionsgate and Twisted Picture. It gets you right into the Saw movie viewing mode. It always puts me right into that spirit. This opening is my favorite of the franchise. The franchise, I think, that has many excellent openings. This one is my favorite, but Saw 2 has a great one as well, 4. Seth Baxter is definitely a worthy candidate of being put into a Saw trap. His trap, if winnable, is a believable one as well, in my opinion. Love the gritty look of this room and the bright glow of that Billy from the TV screen. I thought it was great. Seth is a piece of shit murderer, but I got to say he's got the will to live. Having your hands crushed would hurt so bad, and it would be terrifying seeing that thing swinging above you. Would be an awful feeling, though, knowing that I did what was necessary, and yep, still stuck here. This would be an excruciatingly painful death, and I thought it was an epic opening title card. I loved it. I love that we picked right back up with Strom and him killing slow-ass motherfucking Jeff. If you've listened to Saw 3 Dead Meat Kill Count, you know what I'm talking about. And yes, I have seen Inception. Saw is the Inception horror franchise. We're currently in 3 different movies right now as Hoffman locks the freezer door. I love that. Looking back on these movies, it really is hilarious how simple these games are most of the time. Basically, just listen to what the hell Jigsaw tells you and you'll be fine, but their obsession gets them killed pretty much. And like Brian mentioned, I wrote it down as well, Strom in the water box trap. Per IMDb, Scott Patterson was apprehensive to do the stunt, rightfully so. Like Brian mentioned, things didn't go well in testing, but he powered through. It took several takes to get it right because he felt uncomfortable several times. And I don't blame you. That would be claustrophobic and horrifying. And what a fucking move by this guy to get his pen out and stab himself in the throat to get oxygen. What a goddamn warrior. I agree, Brian. What a hero. I laughed out loud at Hoffman telling the little girl it's going to be okay, who asked about her mom and dad knowing good well they were all dead. Like, what an asshole. Laughed again at the old lady noticing Jill Tuck in the waiting room from the magazine, and she could not hide her expression. I thought it was hilarious. Wonderful emotional acting by Jill and John. One is more expressive, crying, and the other you can feel the brokenness in John's voice. I'm biased most likely, but I thought this was a great opening set of scenes. Great opening trap. You pick up from the last movies with familiar characters, and you move the story along with this film all at the same time. I loved it.
Yeah, I like going back to the Saw universe, kind of like I talked about in my open. This opening trap takes you right back into that Jigsaw world building that we've done for the previous 4 films. I believe we've talked about this opening kill before, but it's awesome. Now the trap is bad because he has no chance. Obviously, it's just a killing for killing's sake. But again, the kill itself with the pendulum saw is really fucking cool and absolutely disgusting. And what a horrific way to die. Because the minute you wouldn't die immediately, so you'd feel all these cuts as they start to kind of get deeper and deeper. Just terrible stuff. So this is the film where we get a lot of the Kramer and Hoffman kind of not buddy cop, but like the working together scenes. And so, yeah, I mean, again, this is one of the films that we get into Jigsaw's apprentices or followers kind of sucking at what they do, in my opinion. But anyway, I think we kind of hit on that in our previous Saw reviews. And in the past, like I've mentioned, the Strom Hoffman kind of movies of the franchise, I just haven't been a massive fan of, but I have come to have a little bit more fun with them, especially this one. Now, I've said this before too. Pig head mask, significantly scarier than Billy the Puppet, in my opinion. So I would have used this thing more often and more effectively for sure. Drowning like this, like like Strom could have, would have been an absolute nightmare. Like one of the worst ways to die. And then having the brain to kind of make yourself a windpipe to get out of that situation would not be something I would think of doing. I probably would have died and drowned. So good on him. Like the line where he's like, no one made it out. Bitch, you thought, but my man Strom made it out now. Honestly, ends up dead anyway. Spoiler alert, so it really doesn't matter. I will say, hello, Jill. Missed you being on my screen for a lot of reasons. This plot, as we start to kind of take off here, does get a little convoluted. But, you know, if you watch it in order, it does work. Like, these movies just work the best when you watch them succinctly in order. So I am excited, and I'm kind of locked in and ready to keep going.
All right. We see a police press conference where they announce the end of Jigsaw. Hoffman is honored and gets a promotion, and we see pictures of the fallen cops as he makes a speech. Shout out to Danny Glover. In his office, he finds an envelope with a message inside. I know who you are. He goes to evidence where he's told he's wanted at the hospital regarding Agent Perez. When he gets there, she's not in the room, but Strom is. Strom applies pressure, and Hoffman tells him to back off, and he leaves. Erickson visits Strom and tells him he's on medical leave and he's no longer on the case. We cut to Hoffman, who's looking at a model of some traps and monitors showing different rooms. We see 5 people, including Megan Good and friend of the show Julie Benz, chained by the neck in one of the rooms to start to wake up. Billy's tape starts playing, and he tells them they're selfish, and today 5 will become 1. They have to work together and ignore their instincts to survive. They have 15 minutes, and if one of them moves towards the keys across the room, another timer will start, and at the end of that one, their capos will be dictated, as Michael Scott would say. As they game plan, Charles knows more than he reveals, which upsets Malik, who runs towards the key, setting off the timer. Charles yanks him back and grabs his key. Then the rest of them go for theirs. They all get their collars off, except for Luba, who loses the game and her head. The survivors move on, and Britt wisely picks up all the keys. We cut to Hoffman, who calls Strom's office and leaves a message for Erickson to have Strom call him, and writes Erickson's name in his notepad. What'd you think?
You know, speaking of continuity, where I left off last set of scenes, it was nice to see the past officers' pictures up there at the police conference, even like you mentioned, Dustin Danny Glover's. Glover was apparently offered a chance to reprise his role in a little bit of a flashback, but he had to decline because of shooting conflicts with some movie I've never heard of called Blindness. Pretty sure he cited, I'm too old for this shit, but I mean, I don't know. That's a Lethal Weapon reference, Nico. A couple of things here. Apparently the role of Erickson was written for William Forsythe, but he declined. Look, I love Forsythe, but Mark Rolston is, I mean, I would say he was a pretty worthy replacement. And if you didn't catch that, that was sarcasm because he's a fucking legend himself. Shawshank, Aliens, Rush Hour, Departed. I would say he's decent. And if the voice of Strom seems a touch off from the mouth, it wouldn't be your mind or TV playing tricks on you because Patterson had to re-record his lines in ADR to make his voice deeper and more hoarse, kind of to reflect the voice of someone who had just had a tracheotomy, obviously. So honestly, if you didn't know that, I don't know, you probably would have no idea. But now you will see it in some sections, and I definitely paid attention this time. And I know the timeline starts getting all wonky here, as most of these movies do, without you really even realizing it, like you kind of touched on, Dustin, at the beginning. But when Hoffman finds this note, and I feel like I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again, whatever font they used for that note looks exactly like the I Know What You Did Last Summer original notes, like to me. Also, nice of them to clean up that blood in the hospital bed, too. If you watch the movie, you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure that's really happening in a hospital, but okay. Julie Benz, you mentioned, don'tgooutthere.com. I almost honestly didn't even recognize her with the dark black hair like this. And you mentioned Megan Good, but also Carlo Rota from Boondock Saints here as well. And I could not figure out who this blonde was. I think it was Laura Gordon from Late Night with the Devil. Like, you know, she was in a series called Hotel Cocaine. I didn't know
visited
that
there a time or two.
Otherwise known as Dustin's old house. But anyway, yeah, like I said. Anyway, I didn't love the CG on her kill there, the decapitation. You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the amount of force that would have had to decapitate her. You know, I've said it before. It's just a rant, but that's all I had.
Yeah, it's special watching these movies back after meeting so many of the cast members the past couple of years. Hoffman, Detective Tapp, John, Amanda. You know, we need Scott Patterson to make an appearance soon nearby. I need to get him to sign my mask as well. These detectives are the only people in the world who don't want to take medical leave. Man, sign me up ASAP if I'm eligible. Get me out of work ASAP. Like, I don't want to be here. Hoffman finding the I know who you are note. I love it. I love how these writers connect everything down the road. And it all makes sense and is a huge reveal. Like Dead Meat has said so many times, I love the Saw soap opera-ness. I love that shit. If Strom's wound, I guess it might be Perez. Whoever's wound is bleeding that bad, like Brian mentioned, they need some attention ASAP. That was disgusting. Like, who leaves the hospital bed this disgusting? Like, what is going on here? Strom is on to Hoffman early on, and it's so much more noticeable on rewatches. Just like with Billy and Stu and Scream. Like, it's so obvious when you rewatch it. Self-admit, this group trap is the least sensical to the Jigsaw storyline of the movies. I like it, but it still has fun characters and is interesting to watch, but, it is the least sensical, if you ask me. And like both of you guys mentioned, shout out friend of the show, Julie Benz, making her appearance. Poor lady was traumatized shooting this film, but it's a pleasure to meet and talk to if you ever get the chance. In the original screenplay, Megan Good and Julie Benz, I think she mentioned this during our interview as well, were supposed to lose their shirts, but after seeing how serious they took their roles, this was scrapped. A good move, in my opinion, just out of respect to these actresses. Like, we're horror fans, we don't mind some nudity sometimes, but I don't think it was appropriate for this movie. Laura Gordon, like you mentioned as well, makes her second appearance on the show, her first being in the elite film, the underrated film from these two guys, Late Night with the Devil. And Charles is probably my favorite of these 5 contestants. He's such a condescending asshole, and he cracks me up with how much of a dick he is to him. Malik, I thought was funny too. Nice try, Nancy Drew. That made me laugh. I'm not going to lie. Him tweaking was hilarious. This collar and Saw game is incredibly intense and action-packed. I love it. And, of course, the tweaker kicks the damn box and sends the key flying way too far because he can't do anything right in life. Couldn't imagine seeing someone's head parted from their shoulders. I'd be traumatized with the quickness. And I still got more of this shit to do. I thought it was smart thinking of Britt to gather all the keys just in case, she's got the will to live. I liked it. Another good set of scenes, in my opinion.
Hoffman's been on it since the beginning. We didn't find out about him early on. We just kind of wrote him in later, but he's been on it since the beginning. I'm telling you, trust me. This franchise is just notorious for doing that. Then saying the Jigsaw murders are over when the new Jigsaw basically is right there. It's wild behavior, man. It's the Miami player that was kneeling for the guy that the teammate that he killed picture. That is a toughie, and that's what this reminded me of. And now Strom talks like he smokes a pack a day. Honestly, probably would be much worse in real life if you put a hole in your own throat. Probably wouldn't have gone that way, but whatever. And I feel like, we get a little bit of it in the previous film, but I feel like Strom being on to Hoffman this strong is a little early, or starts to happen a little bit earlier in the movie. I felt like putting the pieces together later would have made a little more sense. That's a nitpick, though. It's not a big deal. Also felt like this movie could have done a better job, and it does a little bit, tying Hoffman in to almost needing, and they give the reason why. Obviously, he kills someone, blames it on Jigsaw, which they talk about later, and then he has to carry out Kramer's traps and kills and stuff to kind of live. But I felt like Hoffman, as a hero in his own story, needs these Jigsaw killings to go on and possibly continue. Now he definitely has to, because he let Strom live and got sloppy. So I felt like Hoffman needs this to be a hero in his own mind, and I felt like that could have been hit on a little bit better. I love that we get this group in the room, and they say, it's not Jigsaw, he's dead. Bitch, of course it's Jigsaw. Who's setting up traps like this? Of course it's a Jigsaw killer. I actually like the Saw movies that have these big group traps as they try to figure out how to make it out together. They never make it out together, but I do like these movies. And it feels like they have higher stakes when you have kind of a... See, this is why I compared it to like an episode of Law and Order, because they have the main plot and they have a B plot, and at some point they definitely do tie in together. Last thing I have, off with her head right a fucking way. I actually really like that kill. She was hot too, though, man. What a shame that we lost someone this early that would have been nice to have on screen a little bit longer.
Strom arrives at his office and searches up Hoffman in the criminal database, but no results are found. He grabs some files and searches up Seth Baxter, where he learns that Seth killed his girlfriend, who happened to be Hoffman's sister. On his way out, Erickson stops him, and Strom says he's just grabbing a few things and he's taking his advice. He's going to take some time off. He goes to Seth's crime scene, and we see Hoffman leaving the scene and then arriving at Seth's crime scene with his department. Strom knows what's going on. We cut back to the four strangers, and Charles is still dropping knowledge. He knows the secrets about everyone. Turns out he's an investigative journalist. Above their heads, they see some hard jars. Above their heads, they see some jars, and then they're locked in to the next, and the next game begins. Billy tells them there's 4 chambers, but only 3 keys fit. 1 minute on the clock, and Charles whacks Malik and smashes all the jars. Britt finds a key that works.
Yeah.
Did I say Luba died earlier?
Yeah.
I did. That was
I
my
didn't want to. I didn't want to. Well, actually, but
No, you should have. Luba didn't die in the scene 1. Spoiler alert. Luba and Charles grab a key as well. Luba whacks Charles in the back of the head, allowing Malik to get the last key. And Charles, he's toast. Back at his office, Strom is looking and piecing together the clues, and we see a flashback of Hoffman arriving at his home. He's on high alert, but it's all false alarms. He gets on the elevator with none other than John Kramer, who jabs him in the neck with a syringe. When he wakes up, he's strapped to a chair, and John is upset that Hoffman has been imitating him with inferior work. Hoffman has a shotgun pointed at him that will go off if Hoffman pulls on the straps. John tells him everyone deserves a chance, and he wants to know if Hoffman has what it takes to survive. John pulls the trigger, but the gun isn't loaded.
Hey, what a coincidence. I'm shooting blanks too now. Listen, I know that this was 2008, but for the love of God, this was not 1998. Can we please get some better internet depictions as Strom is looking through these old newspaper clippings? Like, we have 0 load time on this browser, which is, look, it's a browser. You don't even have to type the web address in, apparently. Every link is blue. You know, I know Photoshop was only out for like a decade before this, but who put Hoffman's face on this picture at this funeral? Like, it looks real bad. But, you know, I'm through being nitpicky. I'm sure someone took the 95 seconds it took to create all this, because that's about how long it looked like it took. Also, nice to see that Masuka from Dexter was also moonlighting as a detective here with Hoffman, with the flashbacks of them finding the body from the opening. It's not really, but, you know, well, you know, right, Dico? You know. Anyway, nice to see Charles bite it here. He kind of reminded me of Jim Cantori, and that cocksucker can fuck off and die. So I'm glad that Charles bit it there.
We haven't had a Jim Cantori's slight in quite some time. That was nice.
Right. Fuck that guy. Fun little tidbit here, though. Writers Marcus Dunstan and Patrick Milton were 2 of the people who got off the elevator where we see Hoffman first meet Kramer, and you know, it's pretty cool. Again, continuity that the shotgun from Kramer, shotgun that Kramer puts in Hoffman's trap is the same one that Hoffman would later use in the rack from Saw 3, not Lex Luger's finishing move, but the trap. Another good group of scenes, I think. But in my opinion, the back and forth, and I mentioned this at the start, with Kramer and Hoffman went on way too long. I mean, it had 7 minutes of screen time, I believe, between when he abducted him through the entire scene with him pulling the trigger and it not going off, and we're still not done.
Hey, man, it could have been 17 minutes. Don't be hating now. I'm just kidding. All right, this isn't a huge nitpick, but considering how obsessed Strom is, it would have been smart of Erickson to have his badge deactivated, right, so he couldn't snoop around the damn evidence rooms. The bells are going off in Strom's head, seeing all these articles with Hoffman, his sister, and Seth Baxter. It's like, I wonder who fucking did it. Erickson very clearly isn't buying Strom's story of him going home to recover. Minor nitpick, but how does Strom make it to Seth Baxter's death location? That's an old crime scene. It should be sealed off, correct? And it's somebody's property. Like, how would he just get in there? Soon as Hoffman said, I knew him, I'd be watching him keenly. Like, this seems very convenient, right? It's nice seeing all the ahas with the group as they reveal who they are and what they do for, like, a career. Another intense game looking for the keys to get into the safes. It really does baffle me, though, that these smart individuals couldn't figure out that more than one person could fit in these damn pits. Like, use your damn noggins. I laughed again at the do you mind from the lady exiting the elevator with Hoffman. Like, everybody's just pissed off in this city. Like, what the hell is going on? You know, like I mentioned already, but I got to tell Costas Mandalore that this scene with he and John, it is my second favorite of the franchise, you know, like outside of the traps or whatever. I love the one-on-one interactions with Jigsaw as he questions and tests these people. And the crowd goes mild hearing this wasn't John's work and Hoffman did it. How a detective rigged that up, though, that beats me, you know, hey, who cares? It's just in the story. And oh, fuck off, John, talking about you've never killed someone. Go to hell, man. You don't get to just capture somebody and say, hey, you got 30 seconds to cut your arm off or you die. Like, that's not how that works, buddy. Love the blurred out effect as Hoffman makes it to his sister's corpse. I think that's just one of the small details with a Saw movie that I just love so much. John over here talking about a blade being inferior. John, Hoffman was trying to kill a fella, not engineer the best blade ever, and it worked, by God. That's all that mattered. Very intense acting by both men in this scene. I loved it. That's all I got, Dustin.
So we have trope of the cop that's taken off the case, but continues to investigate that case anyway, baby. That is right out of the Law and Order SVU playbook, buddy. That's what I'm talking about. Then lied right to his boss. That's not how business is done. Shout out to Tyler Levine. In the past, I've mentioned this twice already, but I'm going to beat the dead horse. I haven't been a big fan of this chase with the cat and mouse game of these two detectives, but for whatever reason, maybe the mood I'm in when I watched it, I do think it works for me here. So I was very into this story this time for whatever reason. This group of five, four now, at least has some interesting characters. We have, nepotism commentary. We've got annoying journalists, that kind of commentary. So there is some at least development with why these people are here. And of course, it's always nice to see Megan Good on my screen for a couple of different reasons. The game within a game is definitely a little convoluted. Who's playing a game with Hoffman, or Strahm playing a game with Hoffman, but Hoffman's playing a game with Strahm. Like, there's a lot of convoluted writing here that does pay off in the end pretty successfully, though. So while you're watching it, it's frustrating. This is a franchise you have to see the other films. You can't just dive right in at Saw 5 and expect to know what the fuck is going on. But I like that they, as we start to show Kramer kind of taking in Hoffman, scaring him, putting him in a trap, seeing what he's made of. I like that we're about to get the backstory of why Hoffman's even in this situation in the first place.
Hoffman realizes that he didn't die, and John tells him his method offers instant rehabilitation if the subject survives. He tells Hoffman he's Jigsaw and that he knows who Hoffman is and what he's done. This is redemption. He can arrest John or explore a method of rehabilitation that will let him sleep at night. John says if Hoffman kills him, the info that he has on him will be released. Strahm wonders if Hoffman helped Jigsaw make all the traps and leaves the office again, which Erickson does see. He calls Hoffman, who fishes for info to see if Strahm told on him, but Strahm didn't say anything to Erickson. Erickson finds the missing Jigsaw files, and we cut back to the remaining three strangers in their game before cutting to Strahm again, checking out another victim's crime scene. We see the fat guy from the razor-wire trap get pigmasked by John and Hoffman, and see them set up the trap as Strahm looks around. We see John showing Hoffman the ropes. Hoffman tells John about Tap, and John says he needs Hoffman to lead Tap to a doctor. Strahm figures out that Hoffman supplied police files to John, and we see John and Hoffman setting up the game from Saw 2, and John says, "It's time."
Yeah, and just a heads up, Nico, I don't have a lot on this set of scenes, just a warning. But what did take a long time, we're in a new set of scenes, and by God, we're still in this back and forth with Kramer and Hoffman for another 3 minutes of screen time, I believe. Whew, Lord have mercy, as Mike Tyson would say. Seeing some more flashbacks, again, continuity in this franchise. I love it. And seeing the older stuff from a different point of view, or like I said, Back to the Future 2ing it, as I always say, is really, really cool in my opinion. To be fair, I think it said that fact about, or I said that fact about Glover earlier when we saw his picture, but I imagine that this is where the flashback would have been, instead of just using, old footage from the first one. But either way, I think they did a fantastic job with it.
Yeah, I don't have much here either. I laughed at Hoffman saying, fuck you to Jigsaw. Man, I'd be pissed too. But I'd be glad I was alive too, but I'd be mad. I am the man you call Jigsaw. I get chills hearing that line. That's my horror goat. God, it was so nice to finally meet my man. Nice reveal here that there's 2 shells in the shotgun. And I love John's flat, stoic delivery of his lines about the corrupt system. How would your sister feel? Make your choice. You're at a crossroads. I love that. Erickson finds all the Jigsaw victim evidence gone. I wonder who took it all, Erickson. You got any idea? I like Strahm revisiting one of the earliest Jigsaw victims, but if someone were to tell me this feels like filler, I would understand and wouldn't argue with you, but I like the flashbacks. Nice reveal how Gordon was got by Tap and Hoffman being an accomplice from the beginning. I did like that. I thought it was another good set of scenes. I appreciated the flashback scenes personally, but, someone else didn't, I would get it.
Here we get to my biggest annoyance with Jigsaw. Acting like he's not a fucking murderer. Man, fuck you. You are a murderer. It's like Charles Manson. Yeah, man, you didn't kill anyone, but you did kill people. Like, don't be so obtuse, in the words of Andy Dufresne. I will say, Tobin Bell is so good in these scenes when he just has to be John Kramer, right? Like, I think some of his best stuff is in those scenes, and he carries this scene with Strom where, again, we get the backstory of why they are this way in this, or why Hoffman is in this situation in the first place. Now, I will say we get a little bit too much time with Strom just walking around investigating. It's an interesting story. I've come around on it, but at the same time, like, a lot of it feels like bloat. Like, yeah, I mean, you're on to him. We get it. Let's get back to the kills and the traps. Now, this group of three that survives is possibly the worst that could have made it out alive, man. Like, these are just like, one, annoying people, two, weak people. So they've killed off like two smart-ish people already. But again, we get more walking around investigating. I don't know. But like every Saw sequel, the backstory and showing how the sausage gets made, for lack of a better term, is very important. And I think this Hoffman-Kramer duo is fine. They do overcomplicate these films, but like I've already mentioned, it's part of this franchise's charm at this point. And I think it works to its benefit if you watch them in order. If I put in Saw 5, I'd never seen another Saw movie, I would know what the fuck was going on. It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Even with the flashback scenes, I feel like you still wouldn't quite, because there are two other sequels that you would need to also had seen. So definitely gets convoluted, but definitely a franchise I view as like a mini series on Netflix or something that you need to watch all together. Not a whole lot happening here in this set of scenes, but it definitely did keep my interest as far as the story goes.
The three strangers enter the next room in their game, and we find out Malik is responsible for a lot of deaths that no one knows about. Luba takes bribes for building permits, and Britt builds condos and kicks people out of their homes to get the land. So that's why they're here. They suck. Billy tells them the next game they have 3 minutes to close an electrical current in a bathtub to open the door, or they're all getting a shock. Luba knocks Malik in the tub, but Britt turns heel and kills Luba so they can use her body. They get her connected, and the door opens. We cut to Erickson's office, where Jill pays him a visit. She tells him she thinks the FBI is following her, and she thinks it's Strom. Speaking of, we see him in the room where John died, and get a flashback to John talking to Hoffman. John tells him he wants to set up a game, and that Amanda will fail him. He gives Hoffman a file, and we see Dr. Lynn be wheeled in from Saw 3. Hoffman checks out the file, and it's the 5 strangers from earlier in this film. We cut to Hoffman calling Erickson from Strom's phone, and then he turns the phone off. Erickson gets a locator on Strom's phone, but they can't find it, because it's turned off. Hoffman enters the room with the monitors watching the strangers' game, and he turns Strom's phone back on. The 2 remaining strangers enter the next room, and Britt deduces that they have to fill a beaker with their own blood to open the door. Malik is confused why there's 5 holes in the device and not just one, and Britt discovers that all the keys are all the same, and they would have freed them from the collars earlier. We cut to Hoffman getting in his car and see Strom is tailing him, and Erickson is on Strom. Britt tells Malik that they could have all 5 made it through all the games, and the door closes, kicking off their next challenge, and the next set of scenes is the ending.
All right, so a little bit more nitpicks from me in the back half of this, but a nitpick could get things started off here. I think Luba died way too quickly after Britt stabbed her in the neck here. Way too quick, in my opinion. By the way, and I mean, did Dexter even have any idea that Rita had this in her past? Like, ridiculous. Also, I mean, whoever wrote this, or even these people, I mean, hadn't seen Deadpool and Wolverine, because the way you beat this is you all join hands, and then you lessen the current, and it blows your shirt off to show your buff Hugh Jackman bod. I mean, that's what happens.
Nico actually texted me that. He's like, I was watching Deadpool and Wolverine, and I think...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I believe it. Anyway, more great writing, I think, to intertwine Hoffman throughout the franchise here and still have Jigsaw relevant to what's going on in this movie despite dying so many movies ago. Hey, when it works, it works. Like here and like Scream, right, Nico? There you go. Attaboy. Now, I know time is wonky, but Hoffman here is literally looking at Erickson when he uses the cell phone to call him. Like, then we see Erickson immediately call and want to trace on it. Now Hoffman is suddenly transported to wherever he's planning it so they can get the trace on it. Like, am I wrong in seeing this? I mean, he was literally like 3 car lengths away from him, and now suddenly he's at the trap house planting the phone for the trace. Tell me if I'm wrong here.
He used Michael Myers' shadow ability.
Okay, I get that. I just praise the writing, so I'll blame the editing on that one. But I love the way that this set of scenes ends with the revelation about the fire and everyone involved in the game. I was ready to see some more. I'm ready to see some more surprises in the end. I like it.
Yeah, Tweaker has no situational awareness, snitching on himself when he sees the camera above him. But justice should be served. Fuck this guy. To no one's surprise, people in power took advantage of the system. I'm shocked. Another fucked up game, and I'm invested. You can tell they have never thought about teamwork once in their life. Britt and Luba both go straight to murder mode, like goodness. It hurts to see the beautiful Megan Good taken out. Could have easily sacrificed Malik's tweaking ass, in my opinion. The 2 ladies could have survived this one. And, honestly, I can see Julie Ben's point, like she mentioned in her interview, of this being a traumatizing movie to film. These are some intense traps, and you see some pretty gnarly stuff go on. I love the green hue as Hoffman talks to John as he's on the gurney. Like those 2000s, the green hues, the blue hues. I miss that. Flipping the gurney out of pure toxic masculinity. Hell yeah, Strom. We need more of that shit. Tweaker has a good idea, finally thinking of the key from earlier. And I like this reveal that all the keys were the same and wondering why there were 5 holes for the arms put in the saws. Teamwork makes the dream work, y'all. That's why we've been almost doing this podcast for 6 years now. Last thing I got, not a lot of notes here due to all the flashback scenes, but I've enjoyed the hell out of it.
Hey, listen. Megan Good has good performances in her life, but she's one of the better actors in the film. In my opinion, her and Tobin Bell kind of, So there's some good stuff here. She's not given a whole lot to do. Great line by Mr. Guy here where they try to get him in the tub, and he says, "I'm more of a shower guy." I forgot about that line. Hilarious. Now, why did this woman turn on her and stab her in the neck? Maybe she thinks that Megan Good is too emotional. I don't know. Seems motivated for another reason. Just saying. Anyway, then we're back to Jill. Never a bad time to have Jill talk on my screen, man. That's all I'm going to say. Phew. Anyway, I like that we get Hoffman's involvement in Saw 3. That backstory really does help. Now, this franchise does this so many times where this person's been here the whole time. And it's like, I guess, man, but at least we get to see it. And we don't just have to visualize it ourselves. Like, we actually get to see how long Hoffman's been a part of this thing. And so, yeah, I felt like that was definitely needed to make it all make a little more sense. And Strom's putting it all together, but he didn't really have a whole lot of proof, right? Like, not really, man. He just kind of has some circumstantial what he thinks. Now, he's right, but he doesn't really have, like, solid proof on Hoffman. But, back to Hoffman. As much as I've come around on this story, the character of Hoffman's still not high in my character list in this franchise. For whatever reason, he's just not super believable in this role. And that's no, schneid to the actor or anything. But I feel like maybe if the actors were flipped, I may have believed it a little more. Maybe not. I could be wrong about that. But still not just like super high on this character of Hoffman, but the story definitely is working for me better here. Them figuring out that everyone could have survived is fucking great. And the line that she delivers, big fucking whoops, I was also a big fan of. But I am ready to get to the end. I'm ready to see how it all wraps up. I'm kind of ready for that climax that we come to know and love from the Saw franchise.
All right, here's the ending. Billy's tape plays, and he tells them the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. The human body contains 10 pints of blood, which is how much they need to fill the beaker. If the beaker isn't filled in 15 minutes, the bombs will explode and trap them inside forever. Hoffman arrives at the house, and Strom is right behind him. Malik tells Britt what she did, and that Charles knew about it, and Britt says the fire is how they're all connected. Or Malik tells Britt what he did, and that Charles knew about it, and Britt says the fire is how they're all connected. They both deserve to be there. Erickson arrives where Strom and Hoffman are, and it's a 3-man game of hide and seek. Malik and Britt start spilling their blood, and Strom finds a room with a tape recorder in it. He presses play, and Hoffman hears the tape playing from down the hall. Malik and Britt reach the 10-pint requirement, and Erickson finds the monitors. Hoffman finds the room Strom was in, but he's not there. Strom tries to sneak up on him from behind, but Hoffman and we see his reflection in the glass, and the two have a struggle. Strom locks Hoffman in the box that was intended for him, and we see Erickson find Brick and Malik. Erickson calls for medical help, and the door shuts behind Strom, locking him inside. Erickson finds files for the 5 strangers and calls Strom's phone, which he finds on the desk, along with a folder with his own picture in it. Strom asks Hoffman how to open the door, and Hoffman points to the tape recorder. He presses play, and it was a trap. We see how Strom was framed to take the fall, and the walls start closing in. The box Hoffman is in lowers into the floor, and Strom is crushed while Hoffman looks on. What'd you guys think of the ending?
Man, to be honest, the first time I watched this movie, I was fucking pissed. Because this is this is like trying to watch Roman Reigns win the championship over and over again and not ever lose. But it is pretty cool to see Strom going through that nerve gas house from 2. I thought it was really cool. I even had the trail of blood leading to the sliding door from the bathroom trap from the OG, and that blood being, as we learned later, Eric Matthews, who we saw, he's the GOAT, by the way, who we saw drag himself out in 3. But is this Hoffman's house now? Like, he lives there? Wow. I did not see that remodeling twist coming. But, whew, damn, seriously. This scene with Britt and Malik and their blood sacrifice, Julie pulling her arm out of that contraption and it basically being like this limp piece of meat, which sounds dirtier than I meant it, but, you know, just like, it just is gross. It was nasty looking. Apparently real animal blood was apparently used for that final trap. The director said they wouldn't have used it had they known how bad it was going to smell. Yeah, nobody would have ever thought about that, huh? And man, what are the chances Strom didn't listen to the rest of that tape? Come on. Like, to be fair, though, I wrote that, and then on the next watch, that's when Hoffman kind of walked in. So he did kind of push that to happen. So I will forgive that little nitpick. Regardless, apparently Patterson didn't even know the film's ending when he was filming it. The special effects team started doing casts of Peterson's arm, you know, since his bones would be crushed, and he asked what they were for, and Patterson laughingly said that the technicians, surprised he didn't know, told him that they were killing off his character at the end of the film. Like, damn, what a way to find out. Well, honestly, another good Saw entry with another great Saw ending. Check out our review of the next one, part 6, don'tgooutthere.com.
The best one, in my opinion. That's just me. But per a quick Google search, you can survive losing 5 pints of blood, but it's a medical emergency and needs treatment ASAP. You know, John Madden the hell out of that one. Needless to say, I wouldn't want to be in this scenario. And, we finally get that infamous cat and mouse chase at the end of a Saw movie. Let's go. I love this. The tweaker lied. We're shocked. I don't know if y'all answer this for me. 1 ounce of heroin to burn down a whole fucking building doesn't seem like a fair trade, does it? Like, what the hell? Nice plot reveal with the 5 contestants, but I do tend to agree with the dead meat team. It's not as interesting since it's not one of the detectives we're following throughout. Was this one of John's properties, near one of his properties? Were some of those people who were killed some of Jill Tuck's patients? Like, I don't know. What caused this involvement? And fuck this so much. I would hate having to push my hand into a saw, the sound, the blood spraying. I'd probably pass out before I even gave enough. I'd just die. Strom still way too obsessed. Can't listen. No clue how he can't tell that's Hoffman's voice, though, on the player. Like, it sounds nothing like the previous Jigsaw tapes. Gnarly visual seeing Malik split hand. Ugh. The Strom-Hoffman showdown, it lives up to the hype to me. Shout out Costas Mandalore for giving me a free signed picture of this visual of him in the glass box. My man. Shout out Costas. And Julie Benz, so incredibly beautiful. Even with 5 pints of blood missing. Like, she is a hottie, I tell you what. And now Strom encounters the find out part of fucking around. I can't imagine how Erickson is feeling finding Strom's phone and his picture in front of the monitors. Hello Zep starts playing, and I went from 6 to midnight pretty quick, boys. Hot take, but my favorite horror score. Like, it just does something to me. Shout out to Tim McGraw and Faith Hill. It sure just does something to me. And the last thing I got is my heart breaks seeing my man Strom die such a brutal death. Seeing bones pop out of flesh, that's a nightmare. And how hopeless would you feel knowing that this room is closing on you? There's nothing you can do. I love the ending.
I will say, like I mentioned at the end of my last set here, the intensity picks up which is good. Not as much walking around and detective work, but I am kind of ready for the climax. Like they've built enough interest for me to get to this moment to kind of see what's going to happen. I am ready for them to finally hit that note, and that is a very familiar beat for the Saw franchise, and I think they've done a good job kind of getting there. As I'm ready for it to already come. I like these two assholes realizing how bad they both suck and deserve to be in this trap. I will say that because it takes a long time for the characters in this movie to kind of come around to that. Some of them do suck, and some of them do deserve to be in not punished in this way, but just like they do come to a realization that what they've done has consequences at least. Now I don't know if it deserves this, but again. It was noted that they both kind of had to realize and look at themselves in the mirror here. I don't know if I could willingly put my hand in this buzzsaw trap. Absolutely fucking brutal, in my opinion. I would just have a really hard time with that. And, we get, as soon as Hoffman goes into the box, the first time I ever saw this, I was like, oh man, that evil son of a bitch has something up his sleeve because there's no way. It's almost like he gave up on purpose, which, shocker, he did. I like how the woman's like, we won, and then they show a shot of his hand all fucked up. I thought that was unintentionally funny, I'm sure, or maybe it was intentionally funny. Either way, it worked for me. One of the few film franchises that always ends with the asshole winning, and I love that. It's very different. Normally, the final girl prevails or something like that. Hoffman and Jigsaw win, or his apprentices win on a pretty consistent basis. And I think that kind of, there's a reason for that. It's almost expected of the franchise at this point. Last thing, squished to death like that is crazy, especially when you think you've got him trapped and then you realize he's actually got you trapped. And so I like the ending. I like the story a lot more this time. I thought they kind of nailed the writing, even though it was a convoluted path to get there.
All right, guys, into our social media comments and questions. We don't have anything on Instagram tonight. Dustin, you got anything on X or Blue Sky?
Yeah, we got two from X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. One is from that guy, Mailhouse14108, who said, one of the weaker films in the franchise, in my opinion. Pendulum Trap, quote unquote, was cool. Am I the only one that felt like it was obvious all five could survive each trap? Jill Tuck is pure fire. Finally, quote, what's in the box? Not Strom. He's flatter than a titty in a mammogram. 5.5 out of 10. Love the show. I really wish I'd have read that before instead of just reading it on the fly like that. And then the other one is from Mookie Boomer_T said, after watching it, the trap in Saw 5 is just a better, more well-rounded version of his very first trap in the barn in Jigsaw, which is pretty cool. They come full circle seeing how the sequels 4 through 6 are just side quest missions for the main storyline 1 through 3.
Nothing on the Book of Faces.
All right, guys, you got any fun facts you want to share? I'll read some if y'all don't see them.
I got just a couple.
I only have one.
Okay, you go, then I go, then Nico goes.
It's the first film in the series that has the same amount of participants in the games to match the number of the film, Saw 5. There were 5 people tested throughout the main part of the film. So there you go. Although that is kind of a stretch because of the first game. But here we are.
Yeah. Cess Trap was inspired by the Edgar Allan Poe short story The Pit and the Pendulum. This is the first sequel in the Saw franchise not to open in first place on opening weekend in the box office. That's a bummer. And the last one I've got, Julie Benz, friend of the show. We talked about the movie Jawbreaker in our interview, don'tgoooutthere.com, where she was in it alongside Rose McGowan, who played Sasha, the Nitro Girl, in the critically acclaimed 10 out of 10 comedy, Ready to Rumble with David Arquette.
Nice. You went with that, Rose McGowan. David Arquette matchup. Nice.
This is Lionsgate's 10th highest grossing film in the U.S. and Canada. Shout out to that. I was pretty surprised by that one. I think it was you, Brian, who read off. It was the first one to not open first place opening weekend.
Me.
Like, damn,
Yeah.
like I did my part, but Dustin, I went and supported cinema. I went and seen it. The first Saw film that doesn't have a graphic of a buzzsaw on either the DVD or Blu-ray disc. Let me tell you something, boys. Let me tell you something. Those Saw original DVDs were so freaking cool, and I gave them away to some damn contestant on this show.
They had
and I regret it so bad.
Didn't they have the blood when you tipped over the case?
They did have one of those, but like just the original DVDs, God, they were so cool.
They had those
That's what I remember.
the translucent slip
Yep.
covers.
Yeah.
Those are fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the last one I got, this is the first film in the series where a character does not say game over at the climax.
I usually say game over during my climax.
I usually go, and boom goes the dynamite.
And boom goes the dynamite.
Yeah, let's shout out our box office real quick. The budget was an estimated $10.8 million, a.k.a. Brian's chump change that he takes to conventions.
Get
And
out
the
of here.
gross, oh, my fault. And the gross worldwide is $113 million, $864,059. Not too bad. Not too bad.
Man,
That's a lot of money still. That wasn't number one. What, it came out that same weekend?
That was a crazy way to read that. He said
Dustin, look that
dollars.
up.
Like,
Yeah, that was
Jamie
crazy.
looked at
As
it.
I was reading, I was like, that was kind of dumb. But hey, I missed last week. I did some things differently, so I'm knocking the rust off. Dustin, hey, Jamie, look that up. What came out with Saw 5 that was number
All right.
one?
October
look that up, Jamie.
24, 2008. Okay. Looks like we've got.
Goodness.
You're kidding. You're kidding me.
Oh, is it going to
No.
tick me off?
It ticked me off.
Oh, there we go.
Number 3 was Max Payne, which that movie sucked. That's such a letdown. I wanted so
Never
much
even
more
saw
out of that movie. But number 1 was High School Musical 3.
Oh, fuck off.
Good night.
Wow.
Well, it's like going up against a Taylor Swift concert, though. I get it.
Yep. Makes sense. All right, guys, into our favorite kill, least favorite kill in the rating. Dustin, you want to kick us off so you can jot our scores down?
Sure do. Favorite kill was Ashley. I know it didn't look the greatest, and it's flawed in logic, like Brian said, but her head getting cut off, that was pretty sick. Like, just seeing it stay on top of the blade as her body dropped. Least favorite kill was Charles. He's stupid. For him to be so smart, he is stupid. How did he not realize that more than one person could have fit in those holes? Also, he let a woman take him out. Like, he should be ashamed. He should have died. As for my final thoughts on the rating, I had this one ranked 5th in the franchise when we did that, but really it's pretty much tied with Part 4 for me. They're so connected, and I think they're both really good. I love the continuation of the story, and it's a cool twist that the main game in this one was designed for all of them to survive if they could work together. I'm a big fan of nonlinear storytelling. Shout out Nico. But it does get confusing here in this one a little bit with how the flashbacks are woven into the current scenes. But the editing and scene transitions were really good. Hoffman is a supervillain, and I want justice for Strom. I gave this one an 8.
I would say my favorite kill is probably the opening one, just because I like the concept of it. It's nothing too excruciating, but it is creative, and I thought it was really well done. I don't really have a least favorite. I think my least favorite is probably Strom, just because I don't really want that character to be gone. I think he's one of the good ones, as they say. So I would probably go Strom. All in all, I think it's a successful Saw sequel. It accomplishes what it needs to accomplish. All in all, I will just say that it's a good Saw sequel. I think it accomplishes what it needs to. It keeps the films connected in this way, and it follows pretty much all the other ones beat by beat. And honestly, it was just nice to be back in this Saw universe, and so I think that kind of affected my score and affected my mood. So I went ahead and gave Saw 5 higher than I thought I would, which was a 7.2.5. Went ahead a little 7.25, kind of mess up the the average score for us here. So I like doing that. I like making Dustin work for those averages.
Want to go next or last, Nico?
I'll go next.
Ricky Bobby.
Hey, Dustin, but you mentioned something, the game. Are you saying that if they were all in it together, they would have won?
God
I think
damn
so.
it.
If they could take a page out of the Don't Go Out There podcast group chat, it's always better to be all in it together.
Yeah, I mean, that they would have lived.
Sometimes your meat's got to touch another meat to survive.
Never. Never have. Never.
Put that graphic up, Jamie. All
Tip
right,
to tip, kill me.
all right, favorite kill. I got to go with Seth Baxter at the beginning. I love the pendulum kill. It's such a great opening scene to me. Least favorite kill, I agree with you, Dustin Charles. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, you can't look at these pits and think, hey, more than one of us can fit in here, by God.
Yeah.
Fucking idiots.
And
But
got taken
anywho,
out by a woman. Sorry.
yeah, I'm going to let you be that guy. If there's two of us, it might be too much for everybody. But I mean, needless to say, I love the movie. The only qualms I really have is it just doesn't have that, elite Saw ending with a big twist. And the 5 we follow, it's fine, but it doesn't follow a detective, someone involved. It's just not my personal favorite game, but it's still fine. I gave the movie a 9.25. Big fan.
What's his dick? All right. So this is funny because my favorite kill, I got him swapped from you guys because Charles, and my only reason is because fuck that Jim Cantori looking asshole. And my least favorite kill was Ashley, and I only knew her name because you just said it. I actually wrote the girl from Late Night with the Devil that got her head cut off, and then I wrote fake. But like I said in my open, the lowest score I've given this franchise was a 7. I've given a plethora of 9s, and above, and this won't be any different. I think when I first watched these movies, some of the twists with Hoffman and Amanda, and later some of the others, it made me like, oh, come on. But honestly, as I've gotten older, I really appreciate the continuity and the smart writing that it takes to seamlessly intertwine everything in this franchise. Very little that I could even nitpick on this one. And like I said, it gets another high rating from me, and this franchise gets a 9 from this guy.
All right. That gives us a composite score of 8.375. And yeah, Ashley, not Luba, as I called her in the first set of scenes. But our IMDb comparison, 5.8 out of 10. Letterboxd 2.7. Rotten Tomatoes, they just don't get it. 13%. They got lost in the sauce. They couldn't keep up with the nonlinear. They were just confused.
Wow, couldn't be me.
Wow.
We're way higher than fucking. I only looked at IMDb, man. They were like, what they were like 5.8 or something.
5.8. Yeah.
We're way higher. They don't know ball, just like you said. Appreciate everyone tuning in. I'm glad everybody liked Saw 5. Like I was wondering how everyone would feel about it. I'm just going to keep it 100. That's probably my last Saw pick for a while because I just don't love 3D. The blood looks terrible. Shout out Sean Patrick Flannery, though. He's a bad man. But I don't like Jigsaw either. And Saw X really doesn't crank my tractor either. So this is probably the last one I'm picking for a good minute. Well, let's shout out these blood donors. And Dustin, you can announce your pick as we... Ooh, it's not your pick next week. We're doing a Halloween movie. I'll shout that out. Camper Lover Reoccurring, Horror Movie Crew Podcast, Michelle Mirza, Steve Schmidt, Matt from the UK, and Anthony Andrews. Camp Counselor Reoccurring, Edwin Hernandez Gunn, Joe Swinford, Adrian Aiello, Brian Samick, Andrew Ferguson, Brooke Maley, Heather Superdoc, Jennifer Davis from Too Close to Home Pod, Dana Tucker, Cole McAlexander, Max K, Madison Arzola, and Casey Smith. Really appreciate y'all. Take a huge burden off us, help us pay these bills. It's not free to do this shows, and we truly appreciate y'all. Next week, we're doing our Halloween review of the year. We are taking on Mike's personal favorite, Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Is it The Revenge? Yes, The Revenge, I think. Best mask, best portrayal of Jamie Lloyd. I cannot wait to take this movie on. It's going to be a fun one. Final thoughts, guys, before we get out of here.
Just support women's wrongs.
Game over.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, take care of yourself.
Just want to remind everybody,